So, Russ, another week, another round of recommendations.
Yes, sir.
Another wave of everyone's favorite segment. Matt and Russ recommend the hits.
The hits.
We're back with another round of our famous recommendations. This week, Russ has got a classic in his hand.
Oh, I do.
And I actually have a pair of, dare I say, classics in my hand. I know it's a little out of the norm, and I feel like it's a perfect pairing that I couldn't leave the sequel out of this recommendation, so I brought it along with. So the movies that I'm recommending this week, Russ, do you mind if I go first?
Please.
These ones I feel like maybe have a little bit more cachet, if you will, than maybe most of the other movies that I've recommended at this point. I think these ones maybe have been heard of for sure, and maybe even watched by our demographic at home.
Yeah, I'd say that.
You think?
Over Hands on a Hard Body, probably.
And over Untamed, and even The Informant, maybe. I'm not sure. But
yeah.
The movie this week that I'm going to recommend is a movie called The Raid. And when it got released in the U.S. and on Blu-ray, it became The Raid Redemption, which I think is totally lame.
I didn't know that. So it was originally just The Raid?
It's just The Raid.
I didn't know that title change. Wow.
Just The Raid. And then, of course, the follow-up sequel, The Raid 2. These are two of probably the best action movies that I've ever seen, as far as execution, as far as what they were able to do with the budget, as far as fight choreography and stunts and camera work. Some of the shots and different things that you're seeing are like, how did they pull some of those things off? And I want to talk about the second one too, but the first one itself was pretty much done on like a shoestring budget. It's a very simple, small concept. It's a SWAT team that's going in to get some major drug lord. He lives at the top of some, high-rise building. Once they enter, they're trying to be very slick and, precise, and they're trying to get this guy in and out, but he figures out that they're there, and he tells all the tenants there if they are to kill all these SWAT team members for him, they can live in this place rent-free and not have to worry about the police, because everybody that lives there is also basically a criminal doing something illegal. That's pretty much the setup, and I won't really go too much further, but it is an Indonesian movie. The fight style is called Silat.
I would also describe it as Die Hard on steroids. That was my thought after watching it.
It's contained in a building the entire time. Like, the whole movie is in this building, and it seems like that could get old fast, but they are very creative with the visuals and the way they use the space. And I think I just feel like it was done in a very creative way. Like, again, it's really hard to explain unless you see some of the fighting that goes on or some of the camera work that's done.
It's beautiful. You showed me this movie, and I agree with you 110%. The action choreography, it's incredible. It's like watching dance or something.
There's like, I feel like I don't even want to say this out loud because then it maybe taints it, but like a Jackie Chan sort of element to like some of like dudes are like kicking off of walls and stuff. There's like a lot of like acrobatic things that are going on. Meanwhile, the cameras are like swooping over and like are going through people's legs, and
I'd say Jackie Chan just minus the comedic element.
Yes, because it's very gory.
Because even in serious Jackie Chan movies, like it's still very over the top.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. It's over the top, but still feels brutal.
Yes.
Feels very, like, when a kick or punch lands or whatever, it hurts.
And it's fast.
It's not all done to be just complete, spectacle.
And all these dudes are doing their own stunts. Every single person's taking those hits. They're getting thrown through walls. That like all these things are happening to these people. So you can tell there's like talent there. And again, for a very simple, basic sort of film idea, it is just an incredible, thrilling ride. Like, it takes you and it never lets go from the first like 5 minutes. The movie starts almost immediately. Like, they just give you a little bit of an intro and then boom, it starts. And it just like, I don't know, it just doesn't let go. So if you like anything martial arts related, anything, I don't know, just like action related, and if you're okay with, foreign film, it's an incredible movie.
I don't consider myself very knowledgeable on the martial arts genre.
Not really.
It's not a genre I seek out. So my endorsement of this movie, I feel like, carries even more weight because, as you said, it definitely has the martial arts component in it, but it feels just like a great action movie.
It's awesome.
I wouldn't call it a martial arts film, would you? It has the components, definitely.
The main way of like, they're not using guns. Let's put it that way. And that's the other that I think is very interesting about this movie is, this initial SWAT team, they had some, but then they lose it all. So the whole rest of the movie, it's all hand-to-hand fighting. There's knives, there's like a machete, but in that way, that you're right. Like in a Die Hard, everyone's got a gun. Everyone's trying to kill someone. Like, these dudes are just trying to beat each other to death.
Yeah.
or at least knock them out. Whatever it is, get them out of the way by just brutally fighting them until they're in submission. So I think there's that element too. If there was one other, if you could call this martial arts or action movie that I've ever seen that matches the Raid, it's the Raid 2. And I do have a criticism of the Raid 2, but if everything I just said about Raid 1 is even intriguing at all, or you have seen that, but you haven't seen the Raid 2, imagine what these, really creative individuals that made this movie who now have a budget are going to do, and they do not disappoint at all. Like, everything is times 10 larger, from the shots, the cinematography, the fight scenes, the choreography, the locations. Again, the Raid 1, there's a story in this one. Exactly. Like Raid 1 is
many stories. It's like interweaving. Yes. This is an epic.
It's an hour longer, essentially.
Yeah.
Like the Raid 1 is about an hour and 40. This one's nearly 2.5 hours long, because of just, if you take the Raid and then you just give it a story, like that's literally what they've done. But the way that they've added new characters that are also have a lot of different personality. It's not just, hey, 5 SWAT guys that are fighting and here's their leader. It's like, now there's a little bit of style. There's like some other interesting fighters that are like entering the arena. And I've never seen action set pieces like this in any other movie. Just how they are doing certain things. And there's behind the scenes featurettes on these DVDs that show some of the camera work and how they're able to pull off some of these insane things that they're doing while capturing the fighting real time, like one take. They're like passing cameras through car windows, into other people that are holding on to like pass it over to another car. Again, there's like, it feels like a video game, and that there's all these different like bosses and so forth that these guys end up going through eventually. It's not set up that way, but just imagine like that's kind of the way it feels. The last guy that's like the final fight, essentially, this is a fight scene that's almost like 10 minutes long, 13 minutes long. It's like such a long amount of time, and it's not one take, but it's so incredibly done. So incredibly, it's bloody. But it's so awesome to watch. It's like, wow, that is such a great fight scene. It's like, how much longer can these two men go? How much longer can this fight scene go and still be interesting and entertaining? I think the only downfall to it is that the plot can be a little bit much. There's just a lot going on, and not that you're waiting for the next action set piece to happen, because it's still a pretty brisk, movie. It just is convoluted sometimes, like who's, doing what with whom and all this kind of stuff. It's like,
well, there's certain actors that play different roles also.
And from the first one.
First one, which I think adds to the confusion a little bit.
I would love to see these movies come out in 4K. I would love to see. They've been out in like a Blu-ray box set already, but it's just like these slid into a case. Who cares?
That's the one I have.
Is it the one you have? Yeah, it's like...
Because by the time I saw it, when you showed it to me, that case was available, so I just picked both of them up. Yeah. Same editions.
It's the same editions, yeah. So, I mean, this in 4K would be incredible. I would love to see that. I wish they would, but...
Why aren't these on 4K?
I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
We need to get back to the things that matter, and that's the Raid and the Raid 2 in 4K. So
I agree.
So those are my picks of the week, the Raid and the Raid 2. Check them out if you haven't seen them before. Let me know down below what you thought. They're fantastic. Russ, what do you have this week?
I chose to go a bit older.
Okay.
I went with 1983's Ms. 45, directed by Abel Ferrara. For the uninitiated, the story is a woman who's a mute. She does not speak. She works for like this low-level fashion business in the fashion district in New York. This is still when New York was trashy, early 80s, you know what I mean? I love movies that take place in New York in the 70s and early 80s. She is violated twice by 2 separate men in the first 10 minutes of this movie, and she kind of snaps. Now, keep in mind, she's a mute, so we don't really know what she's thinking, and basically decides to kill every man who talks to her. She basically goes out to bars, and if a guy hits on her and is like crazy, even if he's not, even if he's just a normal guy, she's going to kill him.
It's like Promising Young Woman.
Thank you, Matt.
I mean, isn't this a beautiful place?
This is the movie Promising Young Woman should have been. Promising Young Woman had no bite. This has bite. It's an exploitation film for sure. This is clearly a riff on Taxi Driver, on Paul Schrader type movies, where it's a female character being the vigilante, though, right? You can watch this strictly as exploitation. You can watch this as a fun, violent, have a great time with it. What I adore about this film, though, I feel like as years have gone on, let's look at something modern like the Me Too movement, anything like this, I think films like this take on a whole different sort of perspective now. There's genuine pathos in here about how women are treated, how women are viewed, but what I love about this movie is it still manages to have fun with it. It's not beating you over the head with these points. It's there. You take it. You subconsciously take it in, but you're ultimately enjoying a fun, violent movie. All right. The end scene. Okay, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think it's become pretty iconic. It's a Halloween costume party. She's dressed up as a nun.
It's on the back of the box.
Yeah, actually, I got that tattoo. I'm a fan. If you don't believe my recommendation, I have this permanently on my skin. The resolution, what happens to her character featuring another female character, I don't want to spoil it, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you watch it. It is such a phallic way of what this female character does to take her down, and it's this extended shot of it. It just lingers on it, and I love every second of it. I love the blue look of this party. I love the this disco-ish song that's being played. I've downloaded it on YouTube because I can't find the thing anywhere. I listen to the song all the time to this day. It is shot beautifully. It's a great filmmaker working with a low budget. And I'll tell you this, the main character, Zoe Lund, her life story is nuts. Even beyond the character she plays in this movie is more normal in a way than what she was in real life. What was interesting about her was she was a heroin proponent. Like she spoke about, she wanted heroin to be legal. She was like an outspoken activist for heroin. Very strange, right?
Yeah,
Her life was strange. When Abel Ferrara did Bad Lieutenant after this with Harvey Keitel, if anyone's seen that, she briefly appears in that movie, and it's the scene where Harvey Keitel's shooting up. She was brought on set basically, and she ended up in the movie, but she was brought on set to be like, hey, let's get this accurate. Man, any of you who have not seen Ms. 45, I can't recommend it highly enough. A fantastic filmmaker, Abel Ferrara. In my opinion, this is probably his best movie, and this is coming from the dude who made King of New York, Bad Lieutenant.
China Girl?
China Girl. Nobody knows China Girl.
Fuck off.
I'm a fan of China Girl.
I know, that's why I said it.
China Girl, yeah. I'm a fan of his films, but like I said, the three that most people know are King of New York, Bad Lieutenant, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say this is his crowning achievement. You're going to be shy. If you haven't seen it, if you love Taxi Driver, if you love movies like that, give this a watch. American Psycho, you like that? Give this a watch. You're going to thank me.
You know we all love you here.
It's been in pop culture. I know there was a popular show recently on HBO that had like Zendaya in it. I can't even remember the title. Euphoria. Thank you. There was a reference to Ms. 45 in that because my wife watched that show and she watched this part. And it was at a Halloween party and the girl explains that, no, I'm Ms. 45 because she was in a nun outfit and all that. You have not seen Ms. 45.
I have not seen it. I've not seen it.
No.
I'd like to see it based on your recommendation.
I think you would dig it because actually when I said American Psycho out loud right now, I was like, yeah, that's a good comparison. I'd say Taxi Driver, American Psycho, movies like that. If you're into that, give Ms. 45 a watch.